Hi fellows, now we are chapter 6 of A Tale of Two Cities, well written by Charles Dickens. In chapter 5, we read that Lucie Manette got married to Charles Dickens. And who is or was Charles Dickens? Charles Dickens is the cousin to Marquis, or in another pronunciation, Mark. Mark or Marquis had a great castle, and he was carefree of the poor people of France. People of France were angry with him, with his methods, with what he was doing. Charles Dickens disagreed with his uncle's methods. Eventually, Mark or Marquis was killed by somebody called Jacques, or Jacques in another pronunciation. I may call him Jacques from now on. And also, there was another man, Sidney Cartoon, a lawyer, but he had been leading a bad lifestyle, an unhealthy lifestyle, and he expressed his love for Lucie, but Lucie didn't choose Sidney Cartoon as her husband. Now this is story. We want to go to the wine shop of Madame and Monsieur Defarge. And the title of this chapter is A Stormy Years in France. From the title of this chapter, we understand that there's a storm coming. Maybe people are getting angrier and angrier, and they finally want to do something. They finally may stage an uprising against the government. Angry voices are being heard now. Now let's start reading, let's get down to it. In Monsieur Defarge's wine shop in Saint-Antoine, customers came and went all the time. They came to drink the thin, rough wine. What kind of wine is thin and rough wine? A thin wine means a watery wine, a diluted wine. And also rough wine means ripe wine, not mature wine. So the level of alcohol in that wine is not enough. It's sugary, it's sweet without enough alcohol. So thin wine, a watery wine, and a rough wine, not mature wine. So the wine that is served in Defarge's wine shop is not a good quality wine. But customers are not coming here for the quality of wine. They are coming here for something else. But more often, they came to listen and talk and to write for news. Defarge's wine shop is just a place for people for secret meeting, so they can talk and listen to each other secretly, without being overheard or controlled. So it's a secret place. Do you go to such places like a cafe or pub just to talk to people and listen to them, confide in them, places that may not be so public? Do you go to such places? Because that's the kind of place Defarge's wine shop is. One day, there were more customers than usual. Defarge had been away for 3 days, and when he returned that morning, he brought a stranger with him, a man who repaired roads. A man who repaired roads like a civil engineer? Maybe. Madam, Defarge said to his wife, this man, who is called Jacques, has walked a long way with me. One customer got up and went out. Maybe he was uncomfortable. This mender of roads. Mender is someone who mend things, who repair things, who fix broken things. So mender means somebody who repairs. Mend is the verb, means to repair, to fix. Continued Defarge. who is called Jacques. He's a good man. Give him something to drink." A second man got up and went out. They are feeling edgy, uncomfortable. The man who repaired the roads, Jacques, sat down and drank. A third man got up and went out. People are leaving the pub, the wine shop, because they're feeling a little uncomfortable there. "Have you finished, my friend?" said Defarge. "Then come and see the room I promised you." Are they talking about the room that they had been keeping Dr. Manette? They went upstairs, exactly, to the room where Dr. Manette had sat making shoes. The three men who had left the wine shop were waiting. Defarge spoke to them. "No names. You're Jacques 1, you're Jacques 2, you're Jacques 3. I'm Jacques 4. This is Jacques 5. He brings us the news of our poor friend Gaspard. Do you remember Gaspard, the father whose child got killed by Mark? Mark's coach ran over his child. Gaspard was that person. Again, he brings us the news of our poor friend Gaspard, whose child was killed by the Mark's coach a year ago." All the angry poor people from France are gathering, and I think their secret place is Defarge's wine shop. "I first saw Gaspard," said Jacques 5, "holding on under the Mark's coach as he drove past off drive, drove into our village. He ran away. So it was Gaspard who was holding on under Mark's coach. He ran away, but that night the Mark was murdered. Gaspard disappeared and was only caught a few weeks ago. May Gaspard be the Jacques himself? The soldiers brought him into the village and hanged him." Really? So, not only his child was murdered, but he was also hanged. And they have left his body hanging in the village square, where the women go to fetch water. Fetch means go and get something and return. Go and get something and bring back. Fetch. Go and get something. It's a synonym for get. And our children play. And here is the scenery in which Gaspard is hanged. And they have left his body hanging in the village square. They haven't removed the body because they want to make people frightened. They want people to be afraid of to do treacherous actions. When Jacques 5 had left them, Jacques 1 said to his friends, "What do you say? Shall we put their names on the list?" So they have a list of people that they need to be eliminated. Monsieur Defarge. "Yes, all of them. The castle and all of the family of Evrimond." "Is the list safe?" asked Jacques 2. "Yes, my friend," said Defarge. "My wife remembers everything. But more than that, every name is carefully knitted into her work. Nothing can be forgotten." Do you remember the word knit? Knit means to make cloth using 2 long needles. And Madame Defarge is knitting names in order to make a list. A few days later, Defarge reported to his wife some news from his friend Jacques in the police. "A new spy has been sent to Saint-Antoine. His name is Bassard," Jean Bassat. He's English. Jean Bassat was the person who spoke against Charles Dickens in the court. Chapter 3. What does he look like? Do we know? So now we know that Madame Defarge is sitting all the time in the cafe, in the wine shop, knitting. She is knitting people's name. She is knitting a list. He's about 40 years old. Quite tall, black hair, thin face, said Defarge. Good, said his wife. I'll put him on the list tomorrow, but you seem tired tonight and sad. Well, said Defarge, it is a long time. It takes time to prepare for change. The crimes against the people of France cannot be revenged in a day. Defarge. But we may not live to see the end. Madam. Even if that happens, replied Madame Defarge, we shall help it to come. But I believe that we shall see the day of our revenge against these hated noblemen. You already know the meaning of noblemen. Hated means they are disliked. They are not well liked by people. Hated noblemen. The next day, a stranger came into the wine shop. At once, Madame Defarge picked up a rose from the table and put it in her hair. A rose in her hair. It must be a signal, a cue, a gesture, I don't know. As soon as they saw this, so it's a cue, the customers stopped talking. And one by one, without hearing, left the wine shop. Good morning, madam, said the stranger. I think this is a day that they schemed some plan to do something. Let's see. Good day, monsieur, said Madame Defarge. But to herself she said, about 40 years old, tall, black hair, thin face. Yes, I know who you are, Master John Bassat. Is business good? Asked the stranger. Business is bad. The people are so poor. Madame Defarge looked over the door. He is my husband. Good day, Jacques, said the spy. You're wrong, said Defarge, staring at him. That's not my name. I'm Ernest Defarge. Now the spy is talking. It's all the same, said the spy easily. I remember something about you, Monsieur Defarge. You took care of Doctor Manette when he came out of the Bastille. That's true, said Defarge. Have you heard much from Doctor Manette and his daughter? They're in England now, Defarge. No, not for a long time. She was married recently, not to an Englishman, but to a Frenchman. It's quite interesting when you remember poor Gaspard. Miss Manette has married to the nephew of the Marquis or Mark that Gaspard killed. So it's really Gaspard who killed Mark, who calls himself Jacques and was hanged. Her new husband is really the new Mark, but he prefers to live unknown in England. He is not a Mark there, just Mr. Charles Dickens. Monsieur Defarge was not happy at this news. When the spy had gone, he said to his wife, Can it be true? If it is, I hope that Miss Manette keeps her husband away from France. Well, do they know that Charles Dickens' way is different from his uncle? They're not similar, they're just family, by blood, but not by method. Who knows what will happen? Replied Madame Defarge. I only know that the name of every monde is in my list, and for good reason. She went on, means continued, calmly knitting, adding name after name to her list of the enemies of the people. Isn't it a little difficult to knit names on a piece of cloth? You can just write them down easily. Just write the name down, and the rest of the day plan for the revolution that you want to bring about. Just write the names down. It's much easier with a pen and a paper. Time passed, and Madame Defarge still knitted. Come on, it's too difficult. Time-consuming. The women of Saint Antoine also knitted. So this is a custom that everybody does in Saint Antoine. And the thin, hungry faces of Jacques and his brothers came darker and angrier. The noise of coming storm in Paris was growing louder. Yeah, the noise of the coming storm in Paris was growing louder. Winter is coming. Things are going to get overwhelming. It began one summer day in the streets of Saint Antoine, around Defarge's wine shop, with a great crowd of people, a crowd who carried guns, knives, sticks, even stones, anything that could be a weapon. An angry crowd who shouted and screamed, who were ready to fight and to die in battle. We waited for this moment 5 chapters, and now chapter 6, the revolution began. It's a riot at first. Friends and citizens, shouted Defarge, we are ready. To the Bastille! The crowd began to move, like the waves of the sea. Follow me, women, called Madame Defarge. A long, sharp knife shone brightly in her hand. We can kill as well as any man. The living sea of angry people ran through Saint Antoine to the Bastille, and soon the hated prison was ringing with the noise of battle. Fire and smoke climbed up the high stone walls, and the thunder of the guns echoed through the city. Echoed means reverberated, reflected. When the sound reflects and reverberates repeatedly, you say the sound echoed or echoes. 4 terrible and violent hours. Then a white flag appeared above the walls, and the gates were opened. The Bastille is taken. The Bastille had been taken by the people of Paris. Victory. Soon the crowds were inside the building itself, and shouting, "Free the prisoners!" But Defarge put his strong hand on the shoulder of one of the soldiers. "Show me the North Tower. Take me to 105 North Tower, quickly." Why? 105 was the number that Dr. Alexander Manette was keep repeating. This is the picture of people rioting toward Bastille. This is the prison of Bastille. This might be Monsieur Defarge and Madame Defarge. People are carrying different weapons, sticks, stones, guns. This guy is carrying a heavy gun. And people are going to climb. They are going to open this is the gate. They're going to open the gate here. Soon the hated prison was ringing with the noise of battle. And now Monsieur Defarge wants to go to North Tower, where Dr. Manette has been a prison there, shoemaking. "Follow me," said the frightened man, and Defarge and Jacques III went with him through the dark prison. Why do they want to visit the chamber of Dr. Manette? What's in there? Past heavy closed doors. They walked past heavy closed doors. Up stone stairs they walked up. They went up the stony stairs until they came to a low door. A kind of door that you need to bend. You need to bend so that you can go through it. It was a small room with the dark stone walls and only one very small window, too high for anyone to look out. That's a very uncomfortable place for any prisoner to live. Defarge looked carefully along the walls, along the wall. What are they looking for? There! Look there! Jacques III! He cried. I am, whispered Jacques. I am Alexander Manette, said Defarge softly. Let us go now. But before they left, they searched the room and the furniture very carefully, looking for small hiding places. What are they looking for? I don't understand why they have bothered themselves to come to this place. Then they returned to the crowds below. The Bastille and its officers were now in the hands of the people. Victory. And the people wanted revenge and blood. Revenge and blood is a summary of most of the history, the human history. At last, it has begun, my dear, said Defarge to his wife. It was the 14th of July, 1789. In the village where the Mark had lived, and where Gaspard had died, life was hard. Everything was old and tired and broken down. The people, the land, the houses, the animals. In the past, everything and everybody had to work for the Marquis or Mark, and he had given nothing in return. But now strangers were traveling about or traveling around the country, strangers who were poor like the people, but who talked about new ideas that had started in Paris and were now running like fire across the country. Obviously, the revolution had begun and people are hopeful about it, people are happy. They are finding hope to change things for better. The roadman there, who had brought the news of Gaspard to Paris, still worked repairing the roads. One day a stranger came to him as he walked on, means continued walking, the road outside the village. Jacques, said the stranger. He shook the roadman's hand, and turned to look at the Marquis' castle on the hill. It's tonight, Jacques. They're going to do something about the castle. He went on quietly. He went on quietly. The others will meet me here. The others. So Jacques and all the people who called themselves Jacques, following the Gaspard way, are going to gather, and now the night begins. It was very dark that night, and the wind was strong. No one saw the 4 men who came quietly to the castle, Mark's castle, and said nothing. But soon the castle itself could be seen in the dark sky. Why? The windows became bright. The castle is on fire. Smoke and yellow flames. Flames are the glowing part of a fire. Climbed into the sky. Monsieur Gabelle called loudly for help. But the people in the village watched and did nothing to save the castle where the monarch had lived, because they were happy that the castle is on fire. Their hardship was being revenged. And now the story stops here, because this is the end of chapter 6. Are you enjoying that story so far? How many new words have you picked up in this lesson? How many new words have you learned in this lesson? What is a thin wine? What is a rough wine? Is it a good quality wine or bad quality wine? Mend. What does it mean to mend something? And who is a mender? What's the meaning of fetch? And echo. What does it mean for a sound to echo? If you found this story interesting, give the video a thumb, and please share that story with your friends. So this is for now. Continue the story in our next video. So until next video, so long.